What if I look stupid? What if they say no? What if I waste my time and it all falls apart? That what-if spiral, it isn't just anxiety. It's your brain running a faulty program, a program designed to protect you from a threat that mostly exists in your head. Today, we're going to install a software update. This isn't just pre-game jitters we're talking about. This is the loop that keeps you from hitting send on that application. It's the voice that makes you stay silent in a meeting when you have a brilliant idea. It is the invisible fence that keeps you locked in your comfort zone while your biggest goals and ambitions are starving just on the other side. And the most shocking part isn't that this program exists, it's that we think it's a normal, unavoidable part of life. It's not. If you feel trapped by it, I want you to hear this right now. This is not a character flaw. You are not weak. You are not less brave than anyone else. You've just been handed the wrong tools to fight it. We're told to get a thicker skin or to just be more confident, which is like telling someone with a flat tire to just drive better. It completely misses the real problem. The real solution is so much deeper and more powerful. So for this video, I've dug through the absolute best thinking on this topic, synthesizing the core ideas from landmark books like Mindset, The Obstacle is the Way, and Rising Strong. I've distilled all of it into a new, actionable system. This isn't another motivational speech. This is a tactical guide to rewiring your response to fear. By the end of this video, you will have a playbook to interrupt that what-if loop the moment it starts. You'll learn the single biggest lie your brain tells you when you fail, and you'll get a simple 3-step method to rewrite that story in real time. If you click away now, that faulty program will just keep running in the background of your life, quietly stealing your best opportunities. But if you stick around, you are going to learn how to find the off switch. And it all starts by understanding the difference between an internal judge and a data scientist. So, how do we get there? Before I show you how to activate your inner data scientist, we first have to uninstall the bad software that's currently running. You know the advice you always get. You've probably even given it to yourself. You fail a test and your inner drill sergeant screams, "Just try harder." You get rejected for a job and a well-meaning friend says, "You just have to be more confident." Or the worst one of all, the one that sounds so tough and wise, but is actually the most useless advice on the planet. You just need to grow a thicker skin. For years, I thought this was the answer. I imagined building this kind of emotional armor where insults and failures would just bounce right off me. I thought the goal was to become so calloused, so numb, that nothing could hurt me. But this strategy is a trap, and here's why. You can spend years building that armor, making it thicker and stronger every day, but you're preparing for the wrong battle. You think the attack is coming from the outside, but it's not. The critical email from your boss, the awkward silence after your presentation, the no you get when you ask for something, those things aren't the real weapon. They are just the trigger. The real attack, the one that does all the damage, comes from a voice that's already inside the armor with you. It's the voice that takes a simple mistake and whispers, "See, I told you, you're an idiot." It's the voice that takes a rejection and concludes, "This proves you're a fraud and you never belonged here in the first place." This is why thicker skin is such a terrible strategy. It's like building a fortress to protect yourself from the rain when the real problem is a burst pipe inside your own house. The external event is just a spark. Your internal story is the puddle of gasoline you're standing in. Trying to power through it or be more confident is useless because you're fighting the feeling of shame, not the story that creates it. You're trying to fix the symptom, not the cause. So, if building armor is the wrong move, what's the right one? It starts with a radical shift in perspective. It starts by realizing that failure isn't the event itself, it's the story you tell yourself about it. So, if fighting the feeling is the wrong battle, what's the right one? It starts by understanding the most important idea in this entire video. If you remember nothing else, remember this. Failure is not the event. Failure is the story you tell yourself about the event. Let me say that again. The event is neutral. The story is what gives it power. Think about it. The objective event is, I made a mistake on slide 5 of the presentation. That's a fact. It's data. But the story your brain instantly writes is, I'm a terrible public speaker. Everyone saw me stumble. They think I'm an imposter. I've ruined my reputation. See the difference? One is a fact. The other is a horror story. And we've been letting that horror story run our lives. The moment you make a mistake, your mind becomes a courtroom, and sitting on the bench is a harsh, biased, and incredibly emotional judge. This judge doesn't care about evidence. He doesn't care about context. He has one job: to take any mistake, any setback, any rejection, and immediately deliver a verdict. And that verdict is always the same: guilty. Guilty of being incompetent. Guilty of not being good enough. Guilty of being a failure. The gavel comes down, and a wave of shame washes over you. Case closed. This is the source of the paralysis. This internal judge is the faulty software. But what if you didn't have to listen to the judge? What if you could fire him on the spot? And in his place, you could hire someone else, a calm, logical, and deeply curious data scientist. The data scientist looks at the exact same event, the mistake on slide 5, and they don't see a crime. They see a data point. They don't deliver a verdict. They ask questions. Interesting. A performance dip on slide 5. What were the variables? Was I nervous? Did I know that section well enough? What was the actual audience reaction versus the one I imagined in my head? The judge delivers a final verdict that shuts you down. The data scientist provides a progress report that helps you grow. The event didn't change. The only thing that changed was who got to tell the story. This is the revelation: realizing you have the power to swap the emotional judge for the logical data scientist. And for the rest of this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. We're moving from insight to action. And it all starts with pillar number 1. So how do we fire the judge and hire the data scientist? It starts with pillar number 1 of our new system. This isn't a complicated psychological trick. It is a simple, conscious act of separation. The next time you make a mistake, big or small, I want you to pause and mentally draw a line in the sand. On one side, you will write the data. On the other, the story. Let's say your boss sends you a short 2-word email. We need to talk. Immediately, your internal judge grabs the gavel. The story starts writing itself. I'm in trouble. They hated my last project. This is it. I'm getting fired. Your heart rate spikes. Your stomach drops. The judge has delivered the verdict, and the paralysis kicks in. But now you're going to use the system. You take a breath, and you draw the line. What's the data? The data is 2 words in an email. That's it. That is the only objective fact you have. What's the story? The story is a catastrophic fantasy your judge created in less than a second. It's a guess, a theory, a shitty first draft, as researcher Brené Brown calls it. Just by doing this, by separating the neutral fact from the emotional fiction, you create a sliver of space. And in that space, you can breathe. You stop being the main character in a horror movie and become an observer, a scientist looking at the data. This single act of separation is the first step to taking your power back. It stops the emotional hijack before it can gain momentum. But what happens when the judge is screaming too loud to be ignored? That's when we move to pillar 2. Okay, so you've separated the data from the story. But that story, that inner voice, is persistent. It's not just a judge anymore. It's an internal prosecutor, actively building a case against you, presenting every past failure as evidence for your incompetence. You can't just ignore a prosecutor. You have to cross-examine them. So the next step is to give this voice a name. Seriously, personify it. Don't call it something intimidating like the Beast. Give it a silly, non-threatening name like Gertrude or Dale. This sounds ridiculous, but it's incredibly powerful. It externalizes the voice. It's not you anymore. It's just Dale running his mouth again. And once you've named your prosecutor, you're going to interrogate them with 3 simple questions. The next time Dale pipes up and says, "You're a total failure," you ask, Question 1, is that story 100% true? Is it absolutely undeniably true that you are a total failure? Or did you just fail at one thing, at one point in time? The prosecutor deals in absolutes. You have to break those down with nuance. Question 2, what's a more generous interpretation of what happened? Maybe you didn't fail because you're an idiot. Maybe you failed because you were brave enough to try something difficult. Maybe you made a mistake because you were juggling 10 other things. A generous interpretation isn't an excuse. It's a way to introduce compassion into a process that is usually brutal. Question 3, what part of this can I actually control right now? The prosecutor wants you to obsess over the past. I can't believe I said that. And dread the future. They're never going to respect me again. Both are out of your control. This question forces you back to the present moment and the tiny things you can do. These questions take the prosecutor's confident, damning story and poke it full of holes. But what about when you're too emotionally flooded to even think straight? For that, you need an emergency plan you prepared in advance. You need Pillar 3. Athletes and soldiers don't just wing it in a crisis. They run plays. They follow drills they have practiced thousands of times until they are automatic. When you're emotionally hijacked, you can't rely on willpower or clever thinking. You need to rely on your training. You need a failure playbook. This is a simple, pre-planned 3-step emergency drill you can run the moment you feel the sting of failure. Step 1, the tactical pause. The moment you feel that wave of shame or panic, you do not engage. You take a physical pause. Stand up, walk away from your computer, or use the simple box breathing technique used by Navy SEALs. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. Do this 3 times. The goal isn't to solve the problem. It's to stop the emotional cascade from taking over your body. Step 2, focus on the next smallest action. Your brain will want to focus on the huge, terrifying problem. How will I ever fix this disaster? You need to shrink the focus. Ask yourself, what is the absolute smallest physical action I can take right now? Not write the apology email. It's open a new document. Not figure out a new career. It's search for one job title. This makes the insurmountable feel manageable. Step 3, take 1 step. Once you've identified that smallest action, you do it. Just that one thing. This is the most crucial part because motion is the enemy of paralysis. Taking one tiny, non-threatening step forward breaks the spell. It sends a powerful signal to your brain that you are not helpless. You are still in control. So now you have the full system, the mindset to become the data scientist, the tool to interrogate your inner prosecutor, and the emergency plan, your failure playbook. But what does it actually feel like to live this way? What's the final destination? So what does it actually feel like to live this way? Let's go back to that what-if loop we talked about in the beginning, that feeling of being frozen. After you've practiced this system, that feeling doesn't vanish entirely. You're human. The fear signal will still show up, but it feels different. It's not a deafening alarm bell anymore. It's just a quiet notification on your screen. You can see it, acknowledge it, and then get back to what you were doing. Imagine this. You're staring at that blank page again, but instead of paralysis, you just start writing, knowing that the first draft is supposed to be imperfect. That's its job. You're in that meeting, and you have an idea. You share it, not because you're certain it's genius, but because you know that even if it's rejected, that rejection is just data, not a verdict on your intelligence. You hit send on that important email, and instead of a wave of dread, you feel a sense of release. You've detached the action from your self-worth. This is the new reality. It's not about becoming fearless. It's about becoming so good at processing fear that it no longer has the power to stop you. You're moving from a life frozen by fear to one that is fueled by feedback. This freedom doesn't come from a magical personality change. It comes because you've stopped trying to build thicker armor, and instead you've become a master of your own inner world. You're not just using a technique, you are fundamentally changing who you are. You are becoming a data scientist who can look at any situation with calm, objective curiosity. You are becoming a fair interrogator who can question the harsh stories of your inner critic instead of accepting them as fact. And you are becoming the architect of your own resilience, building a system you can rely on when things get tough. You're becoming a person who doesn't just hope for a life without obstacles, but who trusts in their ability to navigate them. So, what's the first step on this new path? It is not some grand, life-altering challenge. It is laughably small. Here is your only assignment for the next 24 hours. I want you to catch the judge in a minor crime. The next time you make a tiny, low-stakes mistake, you spill a bit of coffee, you take a wrong turn while driving, you say "you too" when a waiter tells you to enjoy your meal, that inner critic, that judge, is going to flare up. It's an automatic reflex. In that moment, your goal is not to argue with the judge. It's not to fix the mistake. It is simply to notice. When you hear that little voice in your head say, "Ugh, you're such an idiot," I just want you to silently say to yourself, "Ah, there's the judge." That's it. That single moment of awareness is your first rep. It is the first vote you cast for the person who notices the story instead of being controlled by it. It is the first, tiny step to becoming the data scientist of your own life. If this video gave you a new tool to use, do me a favor and hit that like button. It really helps. And make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next breakdown. Now, I have to ask, what name are you giving your internal prosecutor? Drop it in the comments below. I can't wait to see what you come up with.